Welcome to Module 2. So by this time ay dapat tapos ka na sa Module 1 at nasagutan mo na dapat yung Assignment 1 which are yung CLSU Philosophy and VMGOs. So now let's go to Module 2, the nature of government accounting. This course involves accounting and reporting the government transactions using the Philippine Public Sector Accounting Standards or the PPSAS and the Government Accounting Manual, yung GAM, prescribed by the Commission on Audit, and International Public Sector Accounting Standards. So, ang accounting standards na sinusunod sa government accounting ay yung PPSAS at yung Government Accounting Manual na pinrescribe ng Commission on Audit. So, upon learning this module, we will be able to identify yung characteristics ng governmental accounting, yung funds na ginagamit sa government accounting, mga budget limitations, the budget process, mga considerations, and yung mga funds, general and special revenue funds sa government accounting. So now, let's first define kung ano yung government accounting at kung paano ba ito na-differentiate into the accounting na natutunan mo na before. So it is a process of recording the and the management of all the financial transactions incurred by the government, which includes its income and expenditures. So by looking at the definition, wala siyang difference doon sa accounting for other business enterprises except that it is for a government institution or a state institution. So, special ito because you are accounting for a specific field, yung government or yung state. So, as a process, it is concerned with the maintenance of records. So, ang tinutukoy dito is yung record keeping. Mahalaga yan sa government accounting. Classification of items to provide useful information for control and efficient management operations. Preparation of periodic financial reports. So, these items, yung A, B, and C, these are also present sa mga private businesses. So, what differentiates government accounting with private organization is itong mga aspects ng government accounting na tinutukoy dito. One aspect of government accounting is yung fund accounting na tinatawag. Sa government kasi ay may iba't ibang funds. So, merong general fund, may special fund, merong revolving funds. So, iba-iba. Unlike sa businesses, meron lang isang fund na gagamitin for expenditures and expenses. So dito hiwa-hiwalay yung funds na tinutukoy na yon. Next is yung budgetary accounting. All government expenditures dapat daw ay mag-conform with the national budget. Kaya matatandaan mo kung napapanood mo sa news yung deliberation sa General Appropriations Act, dinideliberate na nila yung budget for 2021 as early as now, na 2020 pa lang, because yung budget ang nagsiset ng limit kung magkano lang dapat ang expenditure ng bawat isang government agency. So, yun yung aspeto ng budgetary accounting. Next is obligation accounting. This provides a maximum amount the agency can spend in the performance of its function. So, an agency can only operate within the budget actually released to it by the DBM, which is within the appropriation approved. So, later on, we will discuss more on ano ba tong obligation accounting na tinutukoy na to. So, let's go first with funds, yung as the accounting unit for governmental entities. So, as I have said kanina, yung fund ang accounting unit for governmental entity simply because kapag itong fund na to, which is in the form of a budget, ay naibigay na sa'yo, yun lang ang pwede mong gamitin for the expenditure mo for that year. So, i-define natin kung anong ibig sabihin ng fund. This is defined as a sum of money or other resources set aside for the purpose of carrying out specific activities or attaining certain objectives in accordance with special regulations, restrictions, or limitations. So ano yung ibig sabihin ng fund? Ito yung binudget na sa'yo, binigay na sa'yo na dapat mong gamitin para ma-accomplish mo yung mga activities or objectives na sinet mo during the budget preparation. Likewise, a fund constitutes an independent fiscal and accounting entity with a self-balancing set of accounts, recording cash, and other financial resources. So, sa government, there are two major classification of funds which are yung general fund at yung special fund. So, anong pagkakaiba nila? As the term implies, kapag general fund, these are all financial resources except yung required to be accounted for in another fund. Yung General Appropriations Act, yun lahat ay general fund. So, General Appropriations Act ay general fund yun. So, lahat ng hindi magpo-fall doon ay magpo-fall na under the special fund, which is defined as the fund which includes the proceeds of specific revenue from taxes that are legally restricted for specified purposes. Okay, let's go now with the budgetary procedures. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng budget? A budget is a plan of financial operation composed of estimate or proposed expenditures for a given period or purpose and the proposed means of financing them. So ibig sabihin, with the term estimate or proposed expenditure, sinasabi lang dito that a budget is an estimate. Kaya nga yung 2021 budget as early as now ay nag-undergo na siya ng review and deliberation sa Congress dahil tinitingnan na kung ito yung budget na ibibigay sa iyo for 2021 at yun ang gagamitin mong pera for your expenditures. Kaya nga sabi, propose expenditures for a given period. Yung given period, yun yung 2021. And the proposed means of financing them. Ano ibig sabihin ng proposed means of financing them? It can be from taxes, it can be from revenues. Pwede kasi na yung isang agency ay meron siyang income generating or revenue generating programs or activities na yun na rin ang mag-finance doon sa mismong operation ng program na yun. Kaya yun ay ina-identify na din dyan sa, yun yung ibig sabihin ng proposed means of financing them. It can be from taxes, it can be from revenues generated by the agency. So the operations of a fund which embrace the principal activities of the government are normally controlled by a system of budget. So ito na yung four phases ng budgetary process. So kung matatandaan mo, meron akong in-upload na enrichment video. So doon at a glimpse, makikita mo kung paanong from budget preparation up to budget execution, operation and accountability ay paano ba nangyayari yung proseso na yon at bakit minsan nababalitaan mo na kaka-start pa lang ng 2020 ay dinideliberate na yung 2021 national budget because of the long process, because of the hierarchy in the level and because of the various layers in the government na dadaanan ng budget ay kailangan as early as at the first half of the year ay sinisimulan ng i-deliberate, i-review, i-prepare yung mga budget para sa susunod na taon. Kaya nga ngayon ay yung 2021 national budget natin ay dumadaan na siya doon sa process na yun. So let's go now with budget preparation. This phase covers the estimation, determination, and translation of government revenues, priorities, and activities. Under this phase, the government prepared their budgets for the year to be submitted to the DBM. So, anong sinasabi lang dito sa budget preparation? Ang sinasabi dito, kung ikaw ay government agency, dapat kung gagawa ka ng 2021 budget, alam mo na kung ano yung mga programs, priorities, activities, or projects na i-implement mo on 2021. For example, ikaw ay you are DPWH, napo-project mo na on 2021 ay magtatayo ka ng for example, ay quarantine facility or magtatayo ka ng mga buildings or magtatayo ka ng mga bridges, ay yun yung ina-identify under budget preparation. So, ina-identify yung mga program. Halimbawa, ikaw ay DSWD naman, kung meron kang mga milk feeding program or yung mga social programs na ikakonduct mo on 2021, dapat ina-identify mo na yon dito sa budget preparation phase. Why? Because itong mga budget na na-identify dito, yung mga priorities and activities na ito ay lalagyan siya ng budget, lalagyan siya ng amounts kung magkano ang gagastusin for this program, for this project. For example, si DPWH ay magkakaroon siya ng mga farm-to-market roads amounting to 1 million, ina-identify na yan sa budget preparation phase. For example, si LSU, yung budget ng si LSU ay ina-identify niya na yan para ano yung mga priorities and activities na gagawin niya for 2021. Dahil yan lahat ay isa-submit sa Department of Budget and Management for review. So, sino ba ang magsasubmit sa Department of Budget and Management? Ang magsasubmit dyan ay yung department or yung institution kung saan ka under. For example, si LSU is under the Commission on Higher Education. So, lahat ng SUC sa Pilipinas ay magsasubmit kay CHED and then CHED will submit to DBM. For example, ikaw ay hospital, yung budget ng hospital ay isasubmit sa Department of Health, then Department of Health will submit to DBM for consolidation. So, ganun yung proseso niya. So, imagine the number or the volumes of the institutions in the Philippines na mag-undergo ng process ng budget preparation. Kaya, as early as 1 year before, ay ginagawa na yung budget preparation. So, the DBM, after masubmit sa kanya yung mga budget na yon, ay i-consolidate niya yon for ay government-wide budget estimate o yung national budget na tinatawag. So, at this point, yung budget na yon ay estimate pa lang, subject for review, deliberation, and interpolation. This shall be submitted to the President for final approval. So, later, i-discuss natin kung paano yung process na yan. Merong note dito, yung alter ego rule. To facilitate more timely decision-making, the President multiplies himself to the cabinets of various government agencies. So, ang sinasabi lang dito sa alter ego rule ay yung mga department secretary, once okay sa department secretary yung proposed budgets ng mga institutions under sa kanya, ay okay na rin yun sa President. So, yun yung sinasabi. Yung personality on the approving authority ng Presidente ay binibigay doon sa mga department secretaries because of the number of transactions. Next, zero-based budgeting. The term zero-based refers to the yearly analysis, evaluation, and justification of each activity, project, or program. Anong sinasabi sa zero-based budgeting? For example, si DPWH, meron siyang construction project, meron siyang gagawing farm-to-market road na ang amount ay 1 million. At the end of the year ay na-determine na 800,000 lang yung nagastos. Yung 200,000 ba pwede niyang gamitin for the next year? Dadagdagan na lang niya yung budget niya? The answer is no. Because kapag pinondohan yung budget na yon, any savings or excess of that shall be reverted back to the Bureau of Treasury. So, next year, magsiset ka na naman ng priorities, ng activities, ng program mo para yun ay lagyan uli ng amount, lagyan uli ng budget. So, yun yung sinasabing zero-based budgeting dyan. You start from zero performance and budgeting level. Let's go to budget authorization, which is the second phase. This involves the submission of the national budget to the Congress or the legislative body, both in the lower and the upper house, yung House of Representatives and the Senate, for review, deliberation, and formulation of the General Appropriation Bill. So at this time, bill pa lang siya. Once it is approved, it is passed by the Congress, the President will sign for it for final approval. So pag pinirmahan ni President yan, it will be a General Appropriation Act. So yun na yung batas. Let's look at itong appropriation is a new term for you future CPAs. Itong appropriation, it refers to an authorization made by law or other legislative enactment for payments to be made with the funds of the government under specified conditions. So anong ibig sabihin ng word na appropriation? The term appropriation means you are ino-authorize ka na ng batas na na magbayad gamit yung funds ng government. You are authorized by the law to pay using the funds of the government under specified conditions. Etong specified conditions na sinasabi dito na papasok yung rules and regulations related to expenditures. Papasok yung konsepto ng government accounting. So, let's go now to budget execution and operation. Kanina, nag-prepare ka ng budget through budget preparation, then inaprubahan ni President for budget authorization, dumaan sa Congress, naaprubahan ni President for, tapos naging GAA na siya, General Appropriations Act, and now, C, budget execution and operation, ito na yung implementation ng budget mo. Kaya nga sabi dyan, this covers the operational aspects of budgeting. Ibig sabihin, yung sinet mong priority, projects, or activities doon sa budget preparation ay i-implement mo na in this phase, yung budget execution. So, ano daw ang cover niyan? It also covers the following: the issuance of a General Appropriation Act as a release document. So once na napirmahan ng presidente yung GAA, it becomes a release document na pwede nang mag-issue, pwede nang gamitin yung funds of the government to pay for obligations. So mag-i-issue and subsequent issuance of notice of cash allocation based on the agency's annual cash program. So later we will discuss ano itong tinutukoy na notice of cash allocation na yan. Continuous monitoring and review of the government fiscal policies. Cash management and monitoring, and generally seeing to it that funds are available to support the approved agency functions. Okay? So kumbaga, ini-implement mo yung budget na meron ka. However, kumbaga, sinusunod mo pa rin yung fiscal policies, yung mga rules related doon. Itong sinasabing specified conditions kanina. So, merong note dyan. This is a new term for you, allotment. This is an authorization issued by the DBM to an agency. So, what is the difference between an appropriation and an allotment? An appropriation, ang nag-authorize sa'yo sa appropriation ay yung batas. Sa allotment, ang nag-authorize sa'yo is yung DBM. So, sino yung mas malawak? Kung titingnan mo ay mas malawak yung appropriation because yung batas ang nag-authorize sa'yo to enact, to effect the payments using government funds kapag appropriation. Pero kapag allotment, yung allotment is just an allotment is a process in implementing yung appropriation na isinabatas. Because allotment is an authorization issued by the DBM to an agency. Si DBM, ino-authorize na niya ngayon yung agency to allow it to incur obligations within a specified amount which is within a legislative appropriation. Kaya nga sabi, within a legislative appropriation, dahil yung allotment is just an implementation of the appropriation na ginawa dun sa General Appropriation Act. So, si DBM ay magbibigay ng allotment ngayon sa mga agency na kapag naka-receive ang agency ng allotment, ibig sabihin nun ay pwede ka nang mag-incur ng obligations. Sir, ano ba yung obligations na to? ito ba yung to give or not to give, or to do or not to do. This is different yung sa mga obligations mo on your business law. Ang obligation na tinutukoy dito is the commitment by the head of the agency to bind the government for the immediate or eventual payment of a sum of money. Sir, bakit may obligation? This is because yung mga transactions sa government, itong financial transactions ay utang. Wala yung, for example, magko-construct ka ng, uh, ng mga tulay. Bibili ka ng mga hollow blocks. Uutangin mo yun. So, ano ang contractual agreement between the supplier and the government is the obligation, because the obligation is a commitment by the head of the agency to for the immediate or eventual payment of a sum of money. So eventually babayaran naman yun. Kaya iba kasi ang process in the government, unlike in the private organizations. So, mayroong concept of obligation accounting. Ito yung tinutukoy kanina na kung ano yung obligation is kumbaga, once the agency is issuing an obligation to a supplier, to an outside supplier, ay you have the commitment of kumbaga, you can bind the government to pay for you in the immediately or maybe in the future. Yun yung konsepto ng obligation accounting in government accounting. Notice of cash allocation. Anong ibig sabihin nitong notice na to? This is an authorization made by the DBM to an agency to withdraw cash from Bureau of Treasury. Kanina, binigyan ka ng authorization ni DBM na mag-incur ng obligation. So kapag naka-receive ka naman na ngayon ng notice of cash allocation, in-authorize ka na ni DBM na mag-withdraw ng cash from the Bureau of Treasury para bayaran yung hollow blocks na gagamitin mo kanina, na inutang mo kay ABC Construction para mag-construct ng isang tulay. So, babayaran mo na ngayon yun dahil meron ka ng notice of cash allocation. Paano mo siya babayaran? Through issuance of the modified disbursement system checks and other modes of disbursement. So, later on, we will discuss yung paanong magbayad, yung accounting for disbursements ang isang government institution on the succeeding modules. May nabanggit dyan, Bureau of Treasury, it receives and keeps national funds, manage and control disbursements thereof. So, sino ang may hawak at nagmo-monitor ng national funds? It is the Bureau of Treasury. So, lahat din ng mga sobra, savings, sa mga budget na binigay sa'yo na hindi mo nagamit ay ibabalik mo sa Bureau of Treasury for their monitoring and safekeeping. So let's go with technical malversation because it is an important topic in government accounting and in the concept of obligation and budgetary accounting. Technical malversation is, ang konsepto niyan ay, hindi yan yung definition. Ito yung concept niya. In-explain niya dyan, an agency's expenditures cannot exceed beyond the budget limit, and it cannot borrow from another agency for its expenditures once it reached its budget limit. Technical malversation is a case. Kaso yan. So, pwede kang kasuhan ng technical malversation kung yung budget na pin-prepare mo, ang budget na sinet mo ay for example, 1 million. At the end of the year, for example, magko-construct ka ng tulay. Ng farm to market roads. Magko-construct ka ng farm to market roads. Worth 1 million. Yun yung nakalagay sa iyong General Appropriations Act. Yun kasi ang pin-prepare mo during the budget preparation. Pero when it was audited by COA, at the end of that year ay na-determine na 1.5 million ang nagastos for that for the farm to market road. So anong ibig sabihin nun? You can be charged of technical malversation because you exceed your budget limit. You also cannot borrow from another agency kahit na may sobra pa siya dahil yung sobra niya dun sa mga sinet niyang program and activities and priorities, dapat i-revert niya yon sa Bureau of Treasury. So, hindi pwede yung hiraman ng funds. Remember, the concept of fund is the accounting entity. Kaya hindi pwede yun. Isa pa ay dito sa concept ng technical malversation, kapag kasi sumobra ka doon sa budget limit mo na nakaset sa GAA, you are violating a law. Anong law? Yung General Appropriations Act mismo. Because the GAA is a law. It becomes a law when the President signs the GAA. So therefore, kapag violate mo yung nakalagay doon na budget, halimbawa, ang farm to market road na nakalagay mo doon ay 1 million lang at naging 1.5, therefore, you are violating the law, the GAA. So, pwede kang i-charge ng technical malversation. Okay, let's have the last phase is the budget accountability. Anong sinasabi sa budget accountability? Kung mapapansin mo doon sa enrichment video, ang magandang explanation doon ay nagba-budget preparation ka ngayon, pero pwedeng nasa phase ng budget accountability ka ngayon nung budget mo nung nakaraang taon. So, sinong gumagawa niyan? The Commission on Audit and in coordination with the heads of the agencies. Nire-review nila yung performance mo based on the predetermined budget, yung budget na pinrepare mo noon at yung actual expenditures na na-incur mo for that particular year. So, titingnan nila, dito nalalabas yung technical malversation na tinatawag. Okay. Yung Commission on Audit, defined as an independent constitutional body which promulgates the accounting policies of the government, as well as the power, authority, and duty to examine, audit, and settle all of its accounts pertaining to revenue and expenses or the uses of the funds. So, since yung COA, yung nagpo-promulgate ng accounting policies dito sa government in the Philippines, ay siya rin ang naggawa nitong government accounting manual na susundin ng lahat ng government institutions dito sa ating bansa. So, on the next discussion videos, we will be discussing the government accounting manual, kung ano ang nilalaman ng government accounting manual at kung papaanong itong government accounting manual ay has been a vital manual in the government accounting rules and regulations in the Philippines. More or less this government accounting manual ay pine-prescribe niya yung mga specific rules on specific transactions. So later on, we will discuss yung government accounting. So dun sa second part video. So yun. So i-end ko muna itong presentation. So para mas malimit natin yung discussions para malimit natin yung data na mako-consume for the discussions. I-chop natin siya along the way. I-chop natin siya by topics. So, i-end ko muna dito sa government accounting manual. Doon sa next discussion video ay mapapanood nyo yung discussion natin related to government accounting manual. So, by this time, dapat natapos mo na yung module 1 and accounting and assignment 1. Okay, thank you.